So we already learned the power rule, and we know that x of n is our function, and our derivative would be nx of n to the minus 1, right? But there's a couple more rules that we need to learn that will help us out with the simple derivatives. So another rule, if let's say y is our function and it equals x, then the derivative of y would actually equal 1. And let's work through this. This is because, right, x to the n. And in this case, it's x to the 1, right? So what we do is we bring the 1 out front, we keep the x, and we do 1 minus 1. And what we get left with is x to the 0 power, and we know that x to the 0 is always 1. So we refer back to our rule, and we know that if we have just y equals x, it's always going to equal 1 because our derivative is going to be to the 0 power. The next rule has to do with constants. So our equation in this case, or our function, would be y equals k, where k is just some random constant, any number, to the x, or k times x. So then our derivative in this case, y prime, would just turn out to be k. So let's look at an example. Let's say y equals 2x. If we do the derivative like we normally do, what happens is 2 times 1, because this is an exponent of 1. We keep the x the same, and then we have 1 minus 1, which would lead to 2x to the 0. And like we previously said, anything to the 0 power is equal to 1, so we just get left with 2. And that is the constant. So this rule is very important as well. And now let's look at the final rule. We have a function y equals some constant k. The derivative of that will always be 0. And let's say y equals 5. Because we have no x, the derivative just becomes 0 because there is no x variable or no unknown variable to take the derivative of. So because this is just a constant, the constant's derivative is just 0. And here's an overview of our 4 rules. Rule number 1 is the power rule, which states that x to the n is our function, and our derivative would then be n x to the n minus 1. Our second rule says that if we have a function y equals x, then the derivative would be equal to simply 1. Our third rule, if we have y equals some constant times x, then our derivative would simply equal that constant. And our fourth and final rule, if y equals some constant, then the derivative of y will always equal 0. So here are the 4 rules. Make sure you remember those, but the most important one is this one, because without this one you can't take the derivative of anything.